All right, it's 6:35. Hello, everybody, and welcome to OWASP Toronto Chapter. This is our April meetup where we have an exciting presentation from Yukfei and another presentation from Ophi. But before we begin, just a couple of housekeeping items. For starters, we have a link in the description of this video. You can use that to share feedback if you're looking to have us present specific topics in the future, or you're looking for CPE credits. You can use that to identify that you were here and present. Also, if people are looking for work or if they have a job they like to advertise, you can share that freely in the comment section below. As well, yeah, our next session has already been scheduled for May, so you can check out the meetup page for more information about that. And yeah, I think that's it for me. So I will pass the torch to Yukfei and he'll get started.
All right. Thank you, Adam. As you can see from the title, today I'll be doing a session that will be tying the three OWASP projects together. Mainly, we'll be exploring Juice Shop, which is an application that is built in securely by design. And it's been created to allow people to learn about application security testing and vulnerabilities. To go through the application, I'll be using OWASP ZAP, which is another one of our flagship projects. And Jack Anders did a presentation on this tool in January of this year. So if you're interested in learning more about it, just go to our YouTube channel and find that video. And then at the end, I'll try to tie it into Defect Dojo, which is a third of our projects. Before I jump in, a little bit about me. For those of you who don't know me that well, I'm Yukfei Chan. I've been involved with the OWASP Toronto Chapter since 2012 now, and I've been in AppSec for over 10 years. And very happy to be giving this presentation to you, and feel free to let me know through the live chat or the chat on YouTube if you have any questions. All right, so just a quick agenda. We just did some introductions, and we'll be going through a series of exercises that will guide us through Juice Shop, ZAP, and Defect Dojo. And then, just as I mentioned a little bit earlier, this is to introduce you to AppSec testing through Juice Shop and ZAP. If you want to learn more about ZAP, Jack Anders, as I mentioned, did a talk in January 2021. And then just a little bit of a disclaimer, this is not meant to be a full session on the OWASP Top 10 or a full class on web application penetration testing. It's meant to be an intro to pique your interest, and if you want to learn more about it, just I will give you the resources and the links and the documentation to help you go through it. All right, so setting up OWASP Juice Shop. First thing is we're going to go through the project site so you can find out more about the project. So if you go to the OWASP main website and just maybe search for Juice Shop, it's very easy. You should be able to find it. And this is the project page that will give you information about what it is. It will give you information about some online demos, introduction slides, and it will also have the source code of the application. And if we go to the GitHub page, you will also be able to find instructions on how to get it started. So there are multiple deployment options. One that I will quickly tell you about is the Heroku option. This is by far the easiest. Basically, you create a free account with Heroku and just click on deploy. What's going to happen is it's going to ask you to log in with your account. But just to give you an idea of what it looks like afterwards, if you do have an account set up already, you can configure just your instance name, select where you want it to be deployed, and then after a few minutes, it will be deployed to a location that is your own, and you can start testing it very easily. The other option I do want to cover is the Docker container. This is also fairly easy. Once you've got Docker installed, it should say Docker pull and then run it locally. And this is what I have configured to run on my local virtual machine. So here, as you will see, I have OWASP Juice Shop already set up and running at a location of my choosing. All right, so let's just go back to the slides. Once again, this is just showing the app being deployed. This one was an instance I created on Heroku. And then here you can select the name of your choosing as long as it doesn't conflict with something that exists already. Next, we're going to be just looking at ZAP and how you can proxy traffic from a browser through it. So let me just go back to the VM and take a look at ZAP. So ZAP is a web application testing tool. It's a proxy. It has a scanner function. It has a lot of features. And if you want to learn more about it, please do take a look at Jack's presentation. What I'm going to quickly go over is just how to set up a local proxy to send all of your browser's traffic through. So if we go to Tools Options, we can set up local proxies. Here you want to select a port. In my case, I put in 8888. And then if you want additional proxies to be listening on additional ports, you can do that too by specifying an address and a port. Fairly straightforward. And then once this is set up, we also need to go to the browser to tell it to send all of its traffic to ZAP. So what we're going to do is go to the browser's configuration settings and preferences, go down to network settings, and then set up the proxy to what we had set up. So localhost on port 8888. Also use this proxy for FTP and HTTPS, and then enable that setting. So once that's done, let me just quickly refresh Juice Shop. If this is set up properly, in ZAP, I should be seeing requests that went through. So currently this is on WebSockets, so there are some WebSocket requests, but just for standard ones, we go to history, and then you can see all of the requests and responses that came from to and from the application. So this allows you to inspect the traffic coming from and to ZAP, and also modify it. And we'll go through that a little bit later. So this was setting up the proxying, and just a little word on SSL and TLS. If your website uses SSL or TLS, which most applications should be doing by now, you will need to add your your proxy certificate to your browser because it is not trusted by default. After it's been added and trusted, you will be able to proxy the encrypted traffic without prompts from your browser. Okay, now we're going to jump into actually exploring Juice Shop and capturing traffic. What we're going to do is go through the application. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it and what it's supposed to simulate. We're going to create an account. We're going to add some money to the wallet, add an item to the basket, and go through the full flow of checking out and paying for an item. So if we go into Juice Shop and just take a little bit of a look through the application. So Juice Shop, it's supposed to simulate an online e-commerce website, and their main products are juices, but you will also have additional items such as artwork, some Juice Shop specific items, and so on. So what we're going to do is go to the login interface, and since I don't have an account yet, I will try to create one. I think I said user 1 use self a password, any security question for the account, and then just log back in with the info that I just used. Now I am logged in, as you can see here. We can set up some payment options. We can look at order history if I had some orders, but currently, since this is a new account, there wouldn't be any. So what we're going to do is add an item to the basket. So I added a liter of apple juice to my basket. As you can see, we're going to go through checkout. To be able to check out, it's going to ask me for an address. So I'm just in something very random. Okay, so I added a shipping address. We're gonna just pick a delivery method, and it's gonna ask me to enter a payment option. Now I can either enter a credit card or I can pay using a wallet. So in Juice Shop, they have a concept where they have a wallet where they can keep a balance of money for you. And currently my wallet is at 0. So what I can do is pay by credit card. And then it's going to say that my card has been saved. I'm going to use that card to complete my checkout, place the order, and then I get a confirmation that the order went through. So we went through this usual flow of adding an item to cart and then paying for it. Now let's take a look at ZAP and see what kind of requests it picked up. Requests and responses. So I've ordered it from the soonest to the latest. And then if we take a look, there are some requests such as this one, which is to retrieve a card. This was retrieving a card that I had already entered. So let's take a look at one of the previous requests, which is a post request to /API/cards. And then you can see that the request went in with this body JSON that included the information that I submitted. And then the actual request to complete the checkout is this one, where it's providing the order details with an address ID, delivery method ID, and then a payment ID. And then the response is a confirmation number, which subsequently the front end will make a request for. And as you can see here, and the response will include the status of that order. All right, so let me continue and go to exercise 3. It's sites and context. But before I go there, are there any questions from people in the live chat? I don't see any right now, and I'm gonna continue for the time being. But if you think of any questions, just type it in the live chat, and I will try to get back to them when I get a chance. Just be aware that there may be a 10-second delay between the live stream and the chat. Sites and context. It's really just to allow you to filter or create a context that is what you want to target or focus on during your assessment. All right. So what I wanted to do is add this site to the default context. There's multiple ways to do that, but that was the easiest way, that by just right-clicking on the site that you want and then including it in your default context. Now you can create multiple contexts in your project, so you can have multiple sites that you work on at the same time. But for simplicity, we're just going to add this site to the default context. Just one other thing I do need to cover is a break and request editor. So let's say I want to intercept a request that is coming from a browser and modify it on the fly. How can I do that? So what I need to do is go into this this interface to set a breakpoint. Now that it's been turned on, any request that comes from the browser will be intercepted by ZAP first. So if I click on it, then ZAP has already kind of known that a request has come in, and then it prompted me to select whether it wants to remain on top or not. So this request was to get the current user, who I am. If I want to let it go, I press on this button, and then I will get the subsequent request as a response from the server, which is just empty because I'm not logged in. Now it's going to ask for the product reviews for this specific product. And yeah, so it gives back a JSON that includes the existing reviews for this product. And then I can press on submit and continue to next breakpoint to just let the request go through. Now I do need to be able to log in to add something to the card. So what we're going to do is go through the exercise of doing SQL injection. Let me just bring the slides over. All right, the first question is, how do I use SQL injection with ZAP to bypass login in Juice Shop? I'm gonna throw it to the audience to give me some ideas. We previously looked at the login interface. I wonder if you have any suggestions as to what payloads we can inject. All right, so I'm gonna slowly go through it, and feel free to jump in if you have any questions or comments or ideas you want to try. But here, there's a login interface. I don't currently have any accounts, but I do want to try to bypass authentication. So let's say if I want to try admin test, that doesn't work. If I do something like single quote test, it gives me an error that says object, which is interesting. Now you also notice that Juice Shop is basically kind of like a capture the flag system, where if you solve any of the challenges, it will tell you. And here, it tells me that I have solved a challenge, which is error handling. So the application threw an error that was not very gracefully handled. So what we can do is go into ZAP and look at the request that we submitted with the single quote. As you can see, this is the post request to REST user login. Email with single quote, the password was test. And what we'll see in the response is that it is an HTTP 500 internal server error. And in the error message, we get something that's very verbose, and it's indicating that there was a SQLite error in the backend. And it also tells us the actual SQL statement where it failed. So this is very useful information that you can gather when you're doing pen testing or doing application testing. If you get a verbose error message like that, one tells you that there's a potential SQL injection vulnerability here, and two, it also gives you clues as to how you can exploit it. Now, does anyone from the audience know what we can try here? What if we try something like one single quote or equals one, and then backslash. Let's see what happens if I do this. So without knowing the actual password of the admin account, I was able to log in as the admin user. Why did that happen? Yes, so there was a comment that says maybe try bypassing login by passing in a true statement, and that is exactly what we did. So the login request where I passed in this, so I entered 1, and then I put in a single quote to kind of terminate the previous section of it, and then I added or 1 equals to 1. So if we look at the error message from our previous attempt, if here the input becomes 1 single quote or 1 equals to 1, what it's going to do is it's just going to do select star from users where email equals anything or 1 equals to 1. And then with the dash dash, it will drop everything that is dash dash means comments and SQL statements. So it will just drop anything that's after this. So what's going to happen is just it's going to select from users whenever there is a true statement, and the true statement will be the first will happen on the first row, because while the email may not match, because we have or 1 equals to 1, this select statement will be true, and it will grab the first row. And it happens that in Juice Shop, the first row of the users database table is the admin user. All right. So the other challenge that I had prepared was to also do SQL injection, but see if we can log in with a specific user. In the Juice Shop application, there's a user called Bender. So what we would need to do is first find the username of Bender, and then second try to bypass authentication using SQL injection. So let's see how we can do that. I'm going to log out from admin and try to look for some clues. When I click on a product, I can see a description, a price, and then some reviews. If I click on the apple juice, I don't know if you guys remember it, but there was a review, and it was left here by a user, which is admin, which says one of my favorites. So this kind of gives you a clue that maybe usernames are kind of disclosed through these reviews. If I click on banana juice, I will see another review, and this is left by someone called Bender with the username or email address of Bender@JuiceShop. So we have the information that we need to target this account. We know that the username is Bender@JuiceShop. How do we log in without knowing that person's password? And we can do that by going back to the SQL statement that was given to us in the verbose error message. Anyone have any clue as to how I can get in as Bender? Anyone? All right, so we have select star from users where, yeah, okay, so HKZ, kind of the same deal. Maybe just putting Bender before that, and then someone else said Bender and 1 equals 1. Same SQL injection with the target username. Okay. So let's try what Hagop had said. So Bender and 1 equals 1. So the email address was this, and then I'm assuming we do and anything as the password. Let's see if this works. Oh. Invalid email or password. Well, we know that the input gets inserted here, right? So what if we put select star from users where email equals to vendor's email address, and then we do a single quote to terminate that, and then just add comments so it won't even check for the password. So basically, my apologies, vendor's email address, single quote, and then dash dash to ignore whatever comes afterwards. Let's see if this works. That seemed to have worked. I was able to log in as vendor. All right. So this was these were 2 challenges showing you how to use simple SQL injection to bypass authentication with Juice Shop. Now, the third challenge that I had here is to do parameter manipulation. How do I fraudulently increase my wallet balance by exactly $19.90 without funding it with a credit card? And I kind of gave you a clue as to what we need to do. It's to manipulate some parameters on some requests. If you recall, we were, before everything crashed for me, we were able to add some items to a basket and then proceed with a checkout, right? And adding the item to the basket had a quantity and a price to the item. So let's take a look at the request to add an item to the basket and see what we can do to play with it and potentially fraudulently get some money. So let me go back there. And I need to be logged in as a user, and currently I am logged in as vendor through my SQL injection attack. What I'm going to do is just clear the current basket. And then I'm going to turn breakpoints on. And then I'm going to do add to basket. So the first request that gets picked up is this, which is res basket 3. So what the application probably is doing is just trying to seek what is currently in the basket. I'm going to go let this through. Not a modify, so apparently there's been no changes. And then the next request is post to basket items. And then the request body includes a product ID, a basket ID, and then quantity. So if I wanted to make some money, and the item, if you recall, for this juice was $1.99, and I want to fraudulently get $19.90, what if I add a quantity that is -10? See what happens. So I'm gonna go and let us go through. The server kind of surprisingly accepted that and provides a status of success, and shows that in the basket probably there's this product ID, and then the quantity is -10. Okay, I'm gonna let this all go through and go back to Juice Shop. You see that in the basket it's showing -10 already, and the total price is -$19.90. If I proceed with the checkout, it turns out vendor already has all of shipping addresses and credit cards set up, so I'm just gonna blaze through that. Now my objective was to get some positive balance in my wallet. So what if I just use my wallet to pay for this purchase that's going to cost me negative $19.90? I'm going to place the order, and it went through. So Juice Shop also tells me that I solved the challenge, which is to place an order that makes me rich. What I can do is go to my account. Actually, not this part, my apologies. Go to my account. My digital wallet is where I want to go. And my balance in the wallet is $19.90, whereas it was 0 before. Any questions about this? All right. Feel free to type your questions in if you have any. I'm going to proceed with the last part of this session, which is to show you how to export results from Juice Shop and to import them into Defect Dojo. As you can see, there is an interface that shows alerts. These are vulnerabilities that ZAP has picked up throughout my perusing of the application with ZAP as a proxy. So these are identified passively as it was inspecting the traffic. The other thing that you can do is also do active scanning of the application. So for example, if I do, I select a specific part of the application, so REST users, and I do a very quick demo scan, which is to do an active scan using everything that's default. It's gonna quickly scan, send a bunch of requests. And then I'm gonna pause here. So the scan has shown a new alert. Let's take a look at what the alert could be. The new alert is SQL injection. So the ZAP scanner has also identified the vulnerability that we kind of looked at a little bit earlier manually, which is that SQL injection is possible on the login endpoint. All right. So what we can do now is to generate a report in XML format. I'm just gonna put this in the OWASP folder and date it to say January 1st. Let's assume we ran the scan on January 1st. So this is the file in XML format viewed in the browser. Now I'm gonna quickly introduce Defect Dojo. So Defect Dojo is another tool-based OWASP project that's also a flagship project. It's meant to be an open source security program, application vulnerability management, and a correlation, and also a security orchestration tool. It enables and streamlines application security testing processes, and you can also integrate this in your CI/CD pipeline to automate testing and allow you to track vulnerabilities throughout time with your application's lifecycle. What I'm gonna need is just to find the credentials of my instance. Just give me one moment. Okay, let me go back to the virtual machine, and this is Defect Dojo. I've set it up locally to do demo for you, and I had already set up an account called OWASP Toronto. So Defect Dojo looks like this. It has a dashboard that will show you historical findings, the number per month, and this gives you a number of engagements. It's organized by a number of products and assets. So what we're going to do is just add a sample product called, in our case, Juice Shop. Description is also Juice Shop. And then the other field that is mandatory is the product type. We'll just use the default and then submit that. Now that I've got a product added, what I can do is import findings. We can add them manually, or we can import some scan results. In the scan results interface, you can provide some parameters of your scan. The scan type has an extensive list of options. And in our case, we want ZAP scan. The environment, let's just select default. And then you'll see here, just to show you that Defect Dojo can integrate with all of these tools. So if you're using these tools and you want to try to use Defect Dojo as part of your pipeline, this is something great to try out, and it's free. It's an OWASP project. So what I'm gonna do is, this is gonna fail because I need to select a file first. It's in documents. It's here. Now that I've got the file, I'll import the results. And it's got all the findings ranked by severity. It's got the date that it's been imported. It's got the reporter. So it allows you to do tracking of these vulnerabilities. What we'll also notice is that from the scan, it will have picked up a number of endpoints. All right, so that was Defect Dojo. If you want to learn more about it and deploy an instance yourself to play with it, the links are here. We'll post this these slides on the OWASP Toronto website afterwards, so you can refer back to this. And then this is just a screenshot showing the same thing, Defect Dojo with results from ZAP. All right. Any questions? I know this session wasn't always easy because of technical results, and I do apologize, but hopefully I was able to, through those 3 challenges, show you a little bit about using ZAP to test Juice Shop and how you can use Juice Shop to further learn about AppSec in general. One last thing I did not cover, which is the scoreboard. In Juice Shop, there is a scoreboard that allows you to track your progress. You just go to /score dashboard, and you will see the challenges that you have completed so far.
It doesn't look like we have any comments in the chat here. But what would you say to somebody who is like just starting out? You know, somebody who has never, you know, downloaded OWASP Zap or any equivalent tools and is, you know, completely new to pen testing. What kind of advice would you give them?
I would tell them to just get their hands dirty and get started. I know there's a lot of documentation out there that will help you get started, and also specifically with Juice Shop, there is a Git book that contains all of the solutions for the challenges. So if you get stuck, take a peek at the solution to help you get past that hurdle. And yeah, just to go back to my previous comment, download Zap or any other tool of your choosing, and just start testing. I think that is the best way.
Yeah, if people are staying for the next section, I'll go over some of the hackable OWASP projects in addition to Juice Shop. So lots of content available for people who are just starting out.
Yeah, that's
the other thing I would add is if you're interested in kind of getting up to speed on ZAP, zaproxy.org is their website, and they have tons of great videos kind of like walking you through all of like the slightly less obvious features, I guess. So if you want to kind of get familiar with the tool, it's a great resource. Yeah.
Okay, shall we take a brief break? I'm sure people want to get up and stretch a little bit. Let's come back at 7:45 EST.
Okay, yeah, let's take 10, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Oh, sorry. Yeah, welcome back everybody to OWASP Toronto. Next up we have Ophi, who will be giving a tour of OWASP hackable projects. Ophi, take it away. Oh, I don't think we can hear you.
Yeah, hi.
There we go.
Sorry. Did you guys want to answer the context question that about the OWASP Zap context question before I go on?
Yeah. Contexts are a grouping of URLs that you can define using regex. And if you're familiar with burp, it's like the scope in burp. Whereas in Zap, you have the ability to define multiple contexts, allowing you to switch between them more easily. Jack, I don't know if you have anything else to add to this.
No, nothing else from me. That's about right. Yeah, it's basically just like a scope item that you can define using a regular expression.
Thank you, Jack.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, guys. Yeah, so I thought I would follow Yukfei's presentation with a kind of like a whirlwind tour of other hackable and other educational resources. Because OWASP actually has a ton of them. And we get the question of like, what do you do if you want to practice hacking? Or what do you do if you are just getting into it and you just want to go through a couple of different example applications from like a couple of different angles, right? Where do you go for that information? And so there are a whole list of applications that this particular project is tracking. There are a bunch of them that are like specific to mobile. There are some that are actually online, so you don't have to spin anything up yourself. You can just go and check them out yourself. Some of them are, OWASP projects, and some of them are specific to specific vendors, right? And then there are some, like I said, that are actually already, sorry, these ones are the offline ones. So you have to install them yourselves. And then there are online ones that you can go to live. And then there are some VMs as well. So I'll walk you through a couple of like the common ones that I see a lot. And then maybe we can do a couple of examples from each of them as well. Before I kind of like go into that, if you're interested, there's an OWASP Spotlight series. So Vedana, who is one of the chapter leads as well, is doing a whole series of project spotlights. And so she talks to the project leads and asks them questions about the OWASP projects that they're doing. So it's a really good place to get, a 10, 15 minute, maybe even 30-minute introduction to a specific project that's interesting from either the flagship projects or some of the like early incubator projects. So welcome you guys to check out Vedana's YouTube as well. And you can just look for OWASP Spotlight and you'll find this, this playlist. If you're wondering who I am, I'm also one of the chapter leads for the OWASP chapter. I'm the Application Security Advisory Services lead in Canada for Accenture as well, and I volunteer with a couple of different like places, like Sector. So that's me. All right. So I structured it as kind of two different things to show you a couple of different projects that are interesting from a technology standpoint, because OWASP Juice Shop itself has a specific tech stack. But if you're looking for vulnerable projects in other technology stacks, one of the good places to go is that web application, the vulnerable web applications page on OWASP, and then look through the projects for something that you're interested in. The other thing to sort of note about secure coding or like hackable projects is that OWASP has a couple of different, I would say, profiles for people who use the information that's on the website. And so a Juice Shop and things like OWASP Security Shepherd and some of these other projects capture the flag type. They're like open concept, open world applications that you can go in there and you can hack, right? And a lot of them will also have things like a guide or a lessons plan or a walkthrough or something like that. But it's very much built from the perspective of pen testers training themselves, or future pen testers or future AppSec people, software security people trying to train themselves in what are these different things and trying to train themselves in how to break things. There are also a couple of projects, though, on the roadmap that are built for defenders. So built for people who come from a development background, who are figuring out how to look at an application, do like secure source code review, do secure coding, and at the same time kind of get sort of more guided lessons in how application security vulnerabilities work, right? So it's not the trying to teach you not an open concept kind of experience, but more like a lessons based, like here, try this kind of thing from a slightly different, from the developer's perspective. And so they show things, a lot more code snippets. They talk through a lot more of those types of using different kinds of language than us security people might use, and providing people with the source code and instructions on how to maybe fix some of these problems as more of the focus of the educational content. So I'm just going to go through, here are some like pen test like ones that I didn't spin up, but that are very like popular or famous. One of the ones is OWASP Security Shepherd. And one of the reasons why it's so great is because it has like all these different modes, and it's deployable in a couple of different methods. So you can go straight to their GitHub, or you can go download their virtual machine Docker image and then set it up in tournament modes or CTF modes or things like that to run your own internal CTF. They'll talk about features, facts, and things like that. So as I said, whirlwind tour, so I'm not going to go into it too much, but this is one of our flagship projects. It is super popular. It is used in a lot of other hacking frameworks and even like paid educational content as one of the basic applications that you can scan and work with. One of the really simple ones is the OWASP Vulnerable app, and so you can go and download this one, deploy it again, check out the Slack channel. The fun thing is that up until last week, at least, the leader was on Slack, on the OWASP Slack fairly often to like talk through and do some of these challenges with people. And then the OWASP DevSlop is one of the ones that's really interesting because it is meant to be like modern web applications and APIs focused. And so it's DevSlop is, I think, sloppy DevOps. Yeah. And so that whole team has a YouTube channel where they go through different challenges on a weekly basis, I think it is, and they have their own channel and presentations also on a weekly basis, where they bring in like people from the industry to talk about different things similar to what we're doing here, right? So those ones are interesting. You can check them out on your own. I don't really have time to go through every single one. The ones that might be interesting to you, if you were looking at OWASP Juice Shop, for example, Yokei showed you that you can go to their online demo, which is the Heroku version of it. And then here's some of the walkthroughs that you can do. So they'll take you through the challenges. And I think there's also a book that's related to this too. You can get the PDF online. Another couple of live sites. You don't have to install this on your own. You can actually just do them by typing the URL into your browser, and it's the demo instance they have up on the web. So let's do a couple. Since the cyber scavenger hunt is good. It's an 8-step scavenger hunt. And it's like a super easy intro to web application hacking, because it gives you all sorts of hints, and you could do it in 30 minutes, an hour, or something like that, depending on how experienced you are with this sort of thing. I walked a brand new person through it, and it took them maybe 30 minutes. It took me, 10 minutes, but then I used to be a hacker, so I would hope that I'm decent at it. So things like this, it tells you this is meant more for people who are starting out and more for people who don't really have an idea of what tools are available to them and things like that. And this one tries not to make you have any specific tools such as OWASP Zap. You can kind of get along without it. So that is one of the signs of both a well-architected application and also something that's like relatively beginner friendly. So, hey, this one talks about, hey, reconnaissance against a web application begins with text on the website itself. So you better understand the company, who the developers are, the better conclusions you can infer. And so that kind of tells you might probably want to check out things like page source. Let's see if there's anything interesting in here. I went through this, so I'm just going through like what some of the thought process might be. This doesn't seem to have anything that's super interesting. The URLs are not really all that interesting either. You don't see any like local URLs. You see mostly just inclusions from other places, except for maybe the favorite icon and the logo. Well, okay, so one of the common things that every application security tool and every security person is taught to do off the bat is to check robots.txt. So, hey, awesome. So it tells you you found the first of the Easter eggs, and look, the fun part is that you can see that the admin page is disallowed, which tells you that there is an admin page, and the next step is usually to try that one out. Okay, let's see. Okay, awesome. So we have number 2 of 8, so you can tell it's pretty fast. I'll go over one more and then I'll just leave it because you guys should probably get a chance to try it yourself, right? They suggest that you look at dev tools, but as a pen tester, I just look at things like this and I see authenticated equals false. And I kind of go like, okay, what happens if I turn it into true? Because parameter manipulation, as Yukvei took you through earlier, is one of the super simple, super easy, also often poorly done portions of application verification. So I'm going to do that and see what happens. Great, so I do get an admin page. It's the 4th of them. If you go back and you actually follow their advice and you try to enumerate things, open browser dev tools and see what's there, that also will give you some additional information. You can walk through it. So if you're interested, this is Chrome. DevTools is here. Okay, so the network capture will record network traffic, but you can also look at the application itself and see what all the data is that's in there. So you can look at local storage, you can look at sessions, you can look at what cookies are available in the application, those kinds of things. We'll close that for now. But yeah, this is Cyber Scavenger Hunt. So feel free to spend 30 minutes on it and see what's there. OWASP Serverless Goat is one of the cool ones. It's also sitting around online, so you can play with it without having to do anything on your own to install it. And this is a deliberately vulnerable AWS Lambda serverless application. And it has a bunch of different vulnerabilities in them, but they try to tell you, there are these kinds of issues, and then they'll point you to the serverless security top 10 that will teach you here about each of these issues, right? So they have lessons and a whole guide to walk you through different things. So you can try and see, what reconnaissance looks like. You can get what the builders were thinking when they were building this and the kinds of challenges that are actually part of this, or you can, look at this and kind of play with it yourself, right? So I don't want to go through it in too much detail, but you can, try things like this and see what happens, right? So this is just checking what the actual functionality of the server is, and you can kind of see, looks like it's in the US West Amazon, and this is probably some kind of like EC2 bucket or whatnot. around. So let's go back. And let's see what happens if we try command injection, something like that. Wait, that one actually worked. Didn't work because it is valid. So let's see if I can do something that's totally not valid. Oh, okay, so we do get stuff like the current directory content. So you can see that there is a command injection in a local file inclusion potential issue, which is the first thing I would suspect, because if they're asking for a URL or a file, then that's something to look at. And let's see if we can like cat an actual file. So usually the first bit, right? Oh, well, nothing there, but when we did it before with just listing the directory, we got index.js, we got package.json, so let's check that one out. Or we can try going into node modules, but like this is just to show that you have some recourse to go look at different things. Okay, so you can navigate the tree and look around and see what's there, look at all the different pieces of source code, that kind of thing. So that's serverless HackMe. It's, like I said, a Lambda function, so it's really interesting if you're looking into hacking AWS services. The Nodegoat project is also pretty cool. It's basically Node.js, right? And so they have a tutorial guide as well. And so they'll walk you through like all of the different tutorials for things that they're looking at that are in this application. You can see broken authentication and cross-site scripting and those types of things. So it's cool. This particular one, like all of these are interesting because not only do you get to play around with them to some degree, like the Nodegoat project is a little bit guided, but it is still open concept. Like you don't have to do the challenges in the order that they tell you to do them in. You can kind of poke around. But if you're just starting out and you're just like, what the heck is going on? You can start here. And these ones are more meant for people who are looking to, as I said, sort of understand the concept of the different applications from a pen tester's perspective. They'll tell you a little bit about code and what's happening in the background to make this a vulnerable system. The prevention portion is fairly, I would say, relatively light, right? Even if they have code samples. So this one's a good like mix in between the two of not giving you any source code and sort of giving you walkthroughs that explain to you what is vulnerable about the application. Okay, so that one's like the pen test like applications that you can get live without really doing any of your own deployment. Now, there are also some really interesting structured ones that are live. So you can go into something like the Security Knowledge Framework. This one's also online. So if you go to demosecurity-knowledge-framework.org and then you just go into it, this has a whole bunch of things that are together. So it gives you, you can go through and look at secure coding checklists that come out of the checklists project. You can look at knowledge base. So let me just click into this briefly. I need elevator music to play while this loads. But they'll tell you about, how to fix different kinds of configuration errors. So a lot of the times you'll see these things in either the training that you're seeing or in like outputs from tools like static code analysis tools, and you can kind of read about some of the issues and what their mitigations might be. Passwords and configuration files, like what do you do about that in ASP.NET? Well, here's a mitigation that you can attempt to do. Right. And then this one has things like code examples as well. So while you're going through different challenges or you're going through different pieces of the knowledge base, you can look at well-secured code examples to do something like audit logs. And so this is more meant for people who are coming from the developer background who want to look at source code and really understand how vulnerabilities come about and what does bad code generally look like. Or pen testers also who come from that kind of background and need to see it like implementable, right? But the fun part, again, from a hacking perspective, is that Security Knowledge Framework also has labs. So for each of these specific labs, you can start up a little mini VM, see the write-up if you want to, and it gives you the different challenges by level of difficulty. So they have up to, I think, 4, 5. They have up to 6 levels of difficulty, and you can kind of see that they also use Juice Shop as one of their ending challenges. So it's integrated into this, and you can track it using this. But if you want to spin up for different instances, you can just say, okay, I'm going to start. So here's the path traversal thing. You can look it up in the kind of manage projects thing. You can look it up in the checklist to see like what are the things that I should check from a path traversal perspective, and then you can come back and you can do this challenge to try to see if you can find it. So let's give it a minute to spin up the little tiny version of this. Okay, so let's go to Security Knowledge Framework Lab. Okay, so we got a local filing demonstration, local file inclusion demonstration. And so local file inclusion just basically means like you can get the contents of a local file in the page, either returned to you somehow or in the page. And so we'll just look at this, let's check out what does it do. Okay, if I ask for the intro, then it gives me the intro. If I ask for whatever the chapters are, then it gives me chapters. All right, so this is nothing to see from a URL perspective. So this one looks like I probably will need to use some kind of HTTP interception just to see what the requests and responses are. And so I'm not going to bother to use OWASP Zap because I don't want another running thing on my machine. Well, let's try with a Chrome extension or something like that. I just downloaded Tamperdev, which is a Chrome extension that is like the next generation of tamper data from way back when. Lots of times when you don't have the ability to install tools on the machine that you're on, you can install tools on at least like Chrome extensions or something like that. And so it'll give you a little bit less of a nice interface, won't give you all the bells and whistles, and definitely won't give you any of the scanning capability, but it is enough to at least look at the requests and responses. So let's, let me quickly, so you can see the two things together. Okay, so I just looked at what was going on with when I click the submit button, and you can kind of see it's not nearly as pretty as ZAP, but you can see the post method, what the URL was, some of the content types, things like that. And you can kind of see the request body as well. Okay, so it's just asking for a file name, and it takes the file name, and then what does it do? Well, it gives you back the content. So that's interesting. I wonder what happens when we just change the file name to something else. So I'm going to intercept requests. Then I'm going to try this again. Okay, so this is the one that's been intercepted. Let's look again. The file name, the canonical test, the super common one is to try to get Etsy password. Or if that doesn't work, or you think it's a Windows machine or something like that, then you can try just like regular system folders that you think you might be able to get access to. So let's try that. Okay, what does the HTTP response say? Let's get the request body and look and see. Very well, I'm getting most of the HTML page. File not found error. no such file or directory. I would trace back. Huh. Okay, well, it's trying at least, but and you can see like that there are other file locations now, so you could actually ask for the Flask app. But I might just have not included. Oh, that's the problem. I have a typo there. Okay, so let's try that again.
And Ophi, you might try to you might want to try etc password as a PASSWD.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, let's try this again. Getting the response body. Great. You can still see, okay, this one looks like it's actually a real page. So it's the same as what this image is actually showing. And then let's see. Yeah, we do get the contents of the etc password page. So now you can go through and you can look at other files if you like. And see if you can do other things. But I think we completed this particular demonstration. So I'm going to pause it. Yeah, you can see that it's showing up now on this page because it got submitted to the browser again. And that's the single demonstration for this one file inclusion vulnerability. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to stop the little virtual machine so it doesn't keep running and eating up their server bandwidth. But you can do that for all of them and it'll just walk you through things. And then it's nice because the write-up is right here. So you can run the app in the specific application that you saw in a Docker container by itself if you want to, or you can just walk through like what is the solution. And they'll show you things like the vulnerable code as well. That's nice. All right. Whoops. So that's some of the available structured live ones. Let me go back through now and look at Secure Coding Dojo really quickly. So Secure Coding Dojo is not online, but it's one of the ones that is a more mature project inside of OWASP. And it was developed by one of our more active members, and they've included like they've built a Docker container for this thing and given you instructions on how to actually bring the whole thing up. So for reference, I had to install it on this machine, and it was super quick, like getting between getting Docker onto the machine and then installing everything from GitLab took me less than 20 minutes, I think it was. So you can bring it up depending on how much you are one of those people who reads the memo within that amount of time from basically nothing if you follow their instructions. So it falls into two different categories. I've just installed the Docker containers on my machine. There's a complementary site that is part of this project that is the Secure Coding Dojo, which takes you is meant for developers to go through and learn how to do secure code review. And so it has only a couple of different categories, but what happens is you go through these individual code review categories and you can look at two different code snippets, and it talks to you about for this input validation category, it talks to you about things like block lists for validation and how you should be doing input validation and sanitization that prevents symbols that are known to cause trouble. And then it asks you, like, look at these two different things, which one is the one that's going to cause the most trouble? And if you click on the incorrect thing, then they'll tell you why. And if you click on the correct thing, you can see that it will give you the correct answer and the reason why. And if you can make it through this entire list, then you've done secure code review correctly, and you can get a completion code that then you can then put into the Secure Coding Dojo tracking system. So let's go and log in. I already sorted out a account for myself. Okay, it would be nice if I typed my password correctly, I think. Okay, back to this then. We register a new user. Password policy. Okay, registration successful. Did I get? Anyway, this application is fun because it does have a dashboard with like leaders and lessons that were achieved by the individual attackers, or sorry, by the individual lead people in here. So you can join different teams. You can do a little bit of like the gamification portion. And there are two different kinds of lessons. So that security code review master, which I showed you here, as I said, when you go through the process of doing it, it will give you a code that you can submit later to prove that you've completed the challenges. But it goes through and it tells you like what is the actual challenge. So this is a much more guided tour for people who are coming at it from the development perspective and just want to look at code and understand like what is it that I'm looking at and how do I really do it. And so it tries to avoid a lot of like the security specific language that you would teach application testers, and it tries to use more development like language that they already know. Right. So they talk about GUIDs and PIN numbers. What does the HTTP request actually look like, and some of the parameters, and why you might be able to do validation on a bunch of different things and remove, say, 90% of the attack surface by just doing integer validation on everything except for the couple of places where you're expecting text. Right? It goes into the concept of block lists and allow lists, and then it talks through the code blocks. So there are actual code blocks that are associated with each of the challenges, and they will go through and talk about much more detailed about how do you do different types of input validation, for example, and the code blocks that are associated with it. So if you're into that, oh yeah, you can join a team or you can create your own. So that's useful if you're trying to, again, do some of the code gamification or doing a CTF and things like that, right? The other one is a belt concept. So this is more for pen testers or people who are trying to learn how to learn how to hack things and just sort of see it in action as well. And so it takes after one of the belt programs that I forget who made it famous, but if you look up security champions, they like the belt concept is related back to the Ninja program that that particular organization created as part of their security champions program. And the idea is if you pass all of these different tests, then you get more and more competent with code review, with secure coding, and you can use each of the different levels as a proficiency guide. Right, so they go all the way from, I think, yellow belt to black belt. But as you complete more and more challenges, more and more of the future belts actually become available. So right now, I can only go up through to the first past, like the first level of proficiency. As I keep submitting and completing challenges, I'll get to more and more challenges that show up. So things like this, missing authentication for a critical function, you can kind of see like what is the purpose, what's the MITRE top 25 programming flaw that's related to that, what's the CWE that it's related to, and then here's some of the programming errors that you see when you actually look at the code. Right, so you can see, try to look and see if you can find the programming error that's causing the specific problem. For this particular one, we can kind of look at how people are actually authenticated, and you can see like they just check that the authorization token is that the server side has the same as the authorization token that's in the cookie, right? So let's see. You can see how the code blocks that are associated with the challenge. You can see kind of like what the attack sequence looks like, and then you can play it. So this one, just see what happens when we do normally. Okay, well, invalid credentials, but it redirects me to a logged in version of the chapter. So let's see if we can just do forceful browsing to it. Go back. What does it say? Yeah, okay, so it works. And then you can go through it. When you try to claim this particular point, it gives you a salt, which is your personal password for this, to show that you've completed the activity. And then you enter it in here. You get the code. You submit it. And then it says, okay, congratulations, you solved the challenge. And then when you go back to things like your lessons next time and log in again, it will keep track of where you are. And then now you're on you can get yourself added to the leaderboard as well. So you can see like we've completed it. And if I added myself to a team, then you could see we have additional people on the leaderboard and the number of people on the team. So that's how Secure Coding Dojo works. And so this is nice. Again, you do get things like the code blocks, you get the leaderboards, you get the activity logging for people who are trying to see if people are actually using the system. There's a dashboard to see like who completed what lessons and how much of the team actually completed them. You can run real like reports to see which modules people are using and how they're doing. All right, that's that. There's only one other application that I wanted to go over. This is one of the affiliated sites. It is written by the person who built out the OWASP time gap theory project, and he wrote a tiny CTF for himself because he was talking to a bunch of the other people who he knows in the development field, and they were complaining about how many of these CTFs are written for people who are more adventurous and more pen tester oriented and like to have these open concepts, like just go figure out what's going on type of situation. But these specific, this specific one is built for developers to Oops. This one's built for developers to, and is more, again, a little bit of more of a guided tour, uses a little bit more of their specific language as opposed to anything else. And that helps a little bit. I think it's because I was on here earlier. So it thinks I'm here. I probably need to clear my cache. Okay. So it gives you different challenges. You can do a lot of them, and different ones show up after you complete the previous ones, but they kind of talk you through what the purpose and the goal is of the particular challenge, so you can kind of see what you should be doing next. And this one is made so that you don't really have to use a HTTP proxy or anything like that either. So if you wanted to look at his guide for web application security testing with browsers, you can check it out. So he talks you through like how do you use dev tools, how do you edit cookies, replay requests, edit local storage, and things like that through the browser, so that when you do his particular challenges, you have guidance. So that's what I had prepared for you guys to look at. Any questions, comments? Oh, I see a question about how extensive knowledge do you need to get into of application development? Do you need to get into AppSec? Do you guys have comments about that? I have comments, but I always have comments.
No, go ahead, Ophi. What do you think?
I would say it isn't very extensive. I always look for somebody who can at least program in a programming language and has some basic like knowledge of how to read code, right? So you've written at least one real script that did something useful in your life, and you did at least one, they built some application as part of a software development lifecycle. And you can read and write, like read the code as well. Because if you can't do that, then you have no idea what the other people are doing on their end. And you probably won't be useful for any code review type of activities. But those things are possible to learn. They're really not that big a deal. And if you're not prepared to at least understand what your associates on the other side are doing, probably not a good profession for you.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it definitely helps. Like, it always helps to have that kind of, knowledge. But I mean, I don't come from, like an application development background. A lot of the, security professionals I know are just straight security. Some of them do come from development backgrounds, though, and they, it's an advantage when you're testing a web application if you have that, that history and knowledge of how they work.
Yeah. My main thing is that if you can't empathize with how hard the problem is on the other side, then you usually underestimate how much trouble it is to be a creator of technology. And then without that empathy, you start thinking, oh, these guys are so dumb. And it's like, no, they're actually not. They just have a different area of specialty. So I find that kind of being able to sit in their heads a little bit helps you be a better AppSec person.
Definitely. Yukfei, did you have a comment on that?
You guys covered it mostly. I know a lot of very good AppSec people who don't come from a development background. But as you said, Adam, it definitely helps. And there are parts of AppSec that I believe you do need development knowledge, such as secure code review. You can't really do a code review if you can't read code. But otherwise, a lot of it are just, I feel, AppSec concepts are like IT and common sense. So it's very doable to get into it without development knowledge.
Mhm. I mean, just looking at the school curriculum that I had, getting into this, a lot of my courses were like, application development to try to understand what MVC is, like how applications work, so you can better penetration test them. But yeah, it's not like you need a full degree and then move into security. But
Any other questions, comments? Please let us know if you actually like these kinds of presentations by putting that in the feedback form, because if this isn't particularly valuable to people, then we'll stop doing that and do something else.
Yeah, I've got a question for you guys. I think very common advice, or I guess very common saying when people are starting out is to kind of like think like a hacker. Think of how you can abuse a web application, or whatever. How do you what are some ideas on how you kind of teach that to somebody, or how somebody can learn how to think maliciously about an application, for instance?
Well, I find that those educational resources that I talked about that are coming at it from a development standpoint help a lot. Just to start introducing people to the idea of how twisted the attacker mindset is, because telling people to think like an attacker is not terribly useful advice in some ways, without some basic exposure to what that actually means. And then after that, you can actually use things like the security board games, the threat modeling, like materials like the OWASP cornucopia and things like that. Those are also guided tours in how to think like an attacker, right? Then once you've kind of got a sense of generally how people think, and you read a couple of walkthroughs or just watch somebody idly kind of doing a pen test, you'll get a better sense of how these things go. And then what some of my non-pen tester friends do is they just watch the news. You'll see lots of people going through and reporting on breaches that happen, and you can kind of then walk through what people think is the aftermath of that on Slashdot or whatever it is, and those will be very illuminating in some ways too, from a layman's perspective. Thought?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even though I've been pen testing for 4 or 5 years now, I still will read bug bounty reports just to get new ideas, to see what kind of interesting perspective someone has when they went into an application that maybe I wouldn't have thought of, to kind of just give me those new ideas to target APIs or web applications or what have you. I mean, yeah, sometimes a lot of interesting vulnerabilities are very simple in concept. They just were never tried, so they were never found.
Yeah. The other thing that I usually ask people is like, okay, what assumptions did you make about how this thing works? Are those real?
Yeah, that's a good one too. I mean, I think we just assume that access control is implemented in a web application, that if I try to access somebody's banking information, I should be stopped. Like, that's pretty common knowledge, but it's not always the case when you actually go to try that. So.
Yeah, my definition of secure software is that it should do what it says it's supposed to do and nothing else. So all the nothing else is the part that you have to kind of look at it and go like, nah, users would never do that. And then you go and try it. Make sure that they never can. Comments
Exactly.
back, Yokvei?
Yeah, I do have a little bit of a development background, and tied to that, I did have to do some QA, and to me, security testing or pen testing for AppSec is really more doing QA with a security lens, not the unit test type of QA where you follow a script, but really finding for edge cases. And I guess to go back to our previous comment about development knowledge, if you do have some development knowledge and you've tried to write the code yourself, you failed, you have had errors that you've had to debug, that gives you the mindset to understand what can go wrong and how you can find those edge cases. The other thing is, as Adam mentioned, is really just experience. So reading bug bounty reports, looking at what other people have done, will give you an idea of what else to look for yourself. And a lot of applications, they fail following similar patterns. So yeah, an attack that worked on one application may very well work on a similar one elsewhere.
Yeah. On that note, if you guys don't subscribe to Portswigger's like top 10 like vulnerabilities of the year kind of thing, it's a really interesting resource because Portswigger, maker of a alternative to OWASP ZAP, they post this like publication every year where they just go through like, the top 10 interesting vulnerabilities that they've seen, whether that's like a specific bug bounty or just like a new like hacking technique. It's a pretty good resource if you want to stay up to date on like the latest kind of, hacking techniques and whatnot. But yeah. Any other comments or questions from the chat there? We got two comments here, one from NRY. Not sure if there was a presentation already, but hoping to see like a list of OWASP top 10 and align it with tools mentioned and other solutions to use with some examples. Okay.
Can you elaborate on what you mean by align it and other solutions? Because there are multiple examples on like how tools are tied together, but not sure if that's what you're looking for. For Mike, the information that Yokvei was presenting will be attached to the meetup and on the OWASP webpage. I'll make the links for these projects available as well. So short answer, yes.
Yeah, we will also record this presentation and put it up on the channel, and the presentation will be uploaded to the OWASP website as well.
Yeah. As sort of a general answer to NRY's question, I don't think there's a specific, say, for example, a presentation that talks very strictly about the OWASP Top 10, but it is one of our flagship projects, and it ends up in every single other project almost, right? So anything that has a testing bent to it will have the OWASP Top 10 incorporated into it to some degree. So if you're looking at the OWASP Top 10 as kind of what it's meant to be, which is here are the list of the most important issues that you should be maybe paying attention to because they're prevalent and they're very severe. The projects like the ASVS, which is the Application Security Verification Standard, will cover off how to test for the OWASP Top 10 in addition to some of the other things that they think that you should have. Then each of the checklists, there usually are something there that is related to how do you identify the issues from the OWASP Top 10, how do you then remediate them, and then how do you test for them? And then many of the other projects will do the same thing. So all of these hackable applications, for example, usually cover off things from either the OWASP Top 10 or the serverless Top 10 or the SANS top 25, like very standard things that you would see or that standards bodies ask for. Oh, and then things like what tools can be used to detect and protect. Honestly, people use the OWASP top 10 in industry as their benchmark for like, you must be able to at least find something from this category. So any security tool that exists is going to be asked, do they cover off the OWASP top 10? And so all of them should, at least to some degree. Does that answer your question? I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, like from an attacker's perspective, like the predominant tool that we use would be like kind of the more commercial equivalent of OWASP ZAP, but OWASP ZAP can be used to detect the majority of OWASP issues or web-related findings.
There's a OWASP project that tries to pull this stuff together. I'm trying to find it. You wouldn't believe how many people have been trying to find like a framework to situate OWASP projects into like application development lifecycle type of views so that you can see what you can use in each of the different areas. There are a couple of projects like that. I just can't remember what they are at the top of my head, so I'm trying to find it.
We need like a meta OWASP project to just like.
There is one. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah.
Let me see if I can find it in the next couple of minutes. Just stick around on chat, and if not, then I can try to post it with the rest of the content here. So if you visit our meetup page or you visit the OWASP website, the Toronto chapter page, it'll be on there with the rest of the links. Okie dokie. Any other questions, comments? Oh, here, I found it. Okay, let me just share 1 sec before we end.
Okay.
And, okay. So there is the OWASP integration standard. So this is the one that's trying to tie together all the different OWASP projects. And you can see from here the application security wayfinder as well. So they're trying to take all the different projects and say like, okay, if you're trying to use things in different areas of the SDLC, here's what you should be using. And then it also separates them out into like documentation projects and other things like that. Oh.
Yeah, you're now sharing your screen.
Perfect. Thanks. So this is the OWASP project integration standards. I'll try to put that into. And then there's OWASP in the SDLC too. So they try to talk through different tools that you can use in each of these parts of the SDLC, basically. Okay, so they talk from a maturity model standpoint, and they walk you through some kind of like, what are some of the tools that you can use, cheat sheets that you can use at each of these different levels, things like that. So it tries to tie the projects together. And I'm pretty sure there are a couple of videos too, but I don't think that they're up to date. If they are, they'll probably be on the OWASP official foundation YouTube channel. Okay.
Yeah, it's great, Ophi.
Awesome. Can we stop sharing now? All right. If we're good, any last words from anybody?
Yeah, and if anybody has any other questions or concerns, we have we have all our contact information on the OWASP Toronto page as well, so you can always reach out to us if you have any questions or concerns. Yeah, it doesn't look like we have any other questions, so I will close things off. All right, well, thank you everybody for coming out to our session here, and thank you to Yuk-Fei and Ophi for your awesome presentations. Don't forget to leave any feedback in the feedback form, if you want to share that. And thanks to our sponsors, who are HP, Checkmark, Security Compass, Sonatype, Security Innovation, Amazon, and Shopify. Thank you, everybody, and stay safe. We will see you next month for another exciting presentation. Take care, everybody.
Take care. Bye now.
Good night.